So in part 5, we took the Minotaur, we took the Sawtooth, a single oscillator, and we made a copy of it at octave intervals, put it onto an instrument in Kontakt. Now this video is going to be all about saving instruments. So it applies to any time that you're saving, okay? So let's take a look. Let's open this up. Now, this consists of several samples. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 samples. Now we need to save the instrument and include the samples. It makes sense to do this because you may need to pick them up at a later date. You may be moving stuff around. You want to make sure all the assets necessary for this are in the same place. There are 2 ways we can save. We can save with the actual samples inside a folder, or we can save the samples and the file together as something called a monolith. Okay, there are reasons why we might choose one or the other, and I'm going to explain them as we go forward. So those samples with this instrument, we want to save it. Come up to the file menu. You can see I've got this on the desktop already, but I want to show you something a little bit different. So we're going to say file, come down to save as, and we need to choose a location. Now I'm going to suggest you put it in somewhere that makes sense, and Native Instruments have a folder. I'm going to show you here. On the Mac it's in a particular place. On PC I'm not sure, so look that up if you need to. Go to documents. You've got a whole bunch of stuff here, of course, which is based on your personal documents layout. I'm going to double click on Native Instruments, and inside here go to Kontakt 5. I've set up a folder called User Instruments and User Multis, and these don't exist, all the others do. So you just create those folders. User Instruments in here, I've set up a category synths. You could create all the categories that you want, and on here you can see that previous example that I created. Now I'm going to set this up as Minotaur Sawtooth. I'm going to say basic. So literally I'm not going to have anything else on it, no modulation, no filtering. We're going to do something like that on another video, but for this one, just focusing on saving. And so that's it, basic. Here's the options: patch and samples, monolith. You can do patch only, but I'm going to recommend that you actually do patch and samples, because then you can send it to a friend, get it all zipped up. It just means that you don't have to worry about those original locations of the files. Over time you may forget, and then you're going to be trying to load up the patch. It can't find the samples. So these days hard disk sizes are pretty big. This isn't a particularly large instrument either. So as I said, patch and samples means that we're going to get an NKI instrument file, and then we're going to get the samples in a folder nice and tidy. So I'm going to show you this method. So patch and samples, we're going to do that. So we're going to save that. It's going inside this synths folder. Okay, so that has been saved in there. Let me show you what it looks like inside the Finder. We're going to go to Documents here, Native Instruments, go to Kontakt, User Instruments, Synths, and in here you can see, there we go. So there's the Minotaur Sawtooth Basic, the NKI file. Inside here we've got all of those samples. So that's really nice and tidy. But let me show you something else. What we could do is save it as a monolith. So this is everything combined. So it's one file that contains the samples within. And this would be great if you just want to send a file to somebody else for them to use, not to get access to those individual samples. So if you're building a library, this is the kind of format to go for. If you're building a commercial library to sell, using monoliths, and then people can't grab those samples. It's all condensed in the same place. So here's how we do it. Files, save as. We're going to do this again. And I'm going to say here monolith so we can see the difference. Going to click on there, save it out. Let's come back, open it up, and you can see here there's the monolith file. All right, so that's literally everything together. If I bring up the information, we can just see there 1.8 meg on the disk. If we look at the file size for this combined, so we've got 1.8 for 6 items and then 4K. So it's negligible difference. There's no compression occurring. It doesn't appear to be anyway. So that's a tidy way to do it. So that's all the samples together inside the file, and you can't grab hold of those samples. Whereas this format, the basic one, just saving as an instrument with the actual patch and the samples, that means you can get to the samples inside the folder here. So hopefully that's a little bit clearer. So that's how we're saving it. Look, the next step, let me show you something. What I want to do, if you looked at one of the earlier videos, I think it was the first one. I was looking at organizing things like the quick load, and the quick load menu is up here. So you can see here that we've got all of the factory stuff. Let's set up a user folder so that we can work with that. So we're going to drop down here. That was a right click, by the way. I'm going to say here user instruments. And in here, I'm going to set up a folder, synths, and in here what I want to do is drag those files that I just created. So we're going to go to the file browser, come over here. I've got my folder selected here, my documents folder, and I need to go inside here, find Native Instruments again, come down to Kontakt 5, and inside there is the folder where I just saved those instruments. So you can see here synths, we've got here the files. So all we need to do, I'm just going to do this with the other one as well. Remember that one, the wobble pad. Going to bring this over here. That's available there. And then I'm going to come down and bring my Minotaur sawtooth into this folder as well. And so these are now available. If I drop this down, you can see here, user instruments. Let me get that accurately aimed, and there we go. So there's the Minotaur sawtooth. So that's how you can save your instruments in Kontakt. It's really easy. So I'd suggest organizing stuff on your hard disk, grabbing all of those instruments together in logical folders. You can decide what they are, and then linking up the quick load as I did here. So setting that up so that you've got your user instruments as well as the factory instruments available whenever you're composing.